Welcome back to the United Pubcast. Sunday evening here in Sydney, Sunday morning over here in the UK. So usually there is a little bit of news breaking sometimes on a Sunday morning. Depends which journalists do get out of bed on a Sunday morning in the UK. But Robbie's joining us in place of Larry on this fine Sunday evening, mate. Weird weekend. It's been the norm in the last couple of weeks, Rob, without no Man United. But how do you cope weekends without no football?
Look, I struggle with football, mate, from the day it stopped. But mate, the way United are in this transfer, I think it's worth if I just try and black it all out at the moment. But look, I'm addicted. I'm addicted to football. I can't stop touching my phone. I'm hoping some good news is finally going to come through. But then, from then until we get it, I'll just keep hoping and praying.
Look, I'm no fan of pre-season football, as anyone knows. Even when I went down to Melbourne in pre-season, I didn't go to one of the games. I stayed in the hotel room sort of thing. I'm not a fan of pre-season football. I'm even starting to look at sort of the pre-season fixtures and sort of how long until Manchester United playing in that first game is Wrexham. We might have a bit of a super sub off the bench. He might be joining us a little bit early. Larry might be with us. But I'll say good day to Dion. Good to see you, mate, as always. And Shane Goodmate of Dow's Newcastle. Maybe be interesting to get this chat might go sort of a little bit left field here, and they'll be interesting to get his thoughts. Newcastle are making moves. It does look like they have got Tonali over the line as well, which is a big signing for Newcastle. And Rob's obviously a big fan of Italian football, so he can give his insight there. But off the bench, Larry might be here. I'll just bring him in, possibly. Larry, good morning.
Gentlemen, Robbie, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Always good to join you and come off the bench. Always enjoy the show in the live, but when I'm on actually in it, I'm enjoying it just as much. So yeah, no, good to be here.
I just came because Rob's here.
I'm sure you did.
I can't blame you. But Larry, look, I'll start with you. Just in regards to the last, 24 hours. Everyone can see from the heading, Mason Mount and Mount Caicedo. Call me a cynic. When this news broke, obviously the news, I forget who broke it. I'm not sure. Maybe someone can correct me in the comments or one of you boys. But it was along the lines of Manchester United's final bid has gone in, but Chelsea, after rejecting it, Manchester, okay, look, the offer is there, but we're not going to pursue it anymore. Okay, you can deal with it. Okay, but we're going to walk away, and attention has turned to the Brighton midfielder Caicedo. The moment I saw that, Larry, my confidence for Mason Mount getting over the line skyrocketed. I believe this is the last bit of the negotiations in Mason Mount joining Manchester United. I don't see anything in this, but let's look at it on face value. It looks like all the attention has turned to Mount Caicedo, not Mason Mount. Am I a cynic or just your interpretation of the news?
I don't think United have walked away from negotiation. I think this is just part of the negotiation tactic. United clearly are trying to do what we discussed on Friday night, Tom. They're trying to change the perception in the negotiation market. They're trying to amend the reputation that they have in terms of negotiation. Clubs know that they can go to Manchester United, demand whatever they like, and hold the club to a ransom. Now, that's going to take time to switch. You asked a very good question on the Friday night point. How do Manchester United change that perception? This is step one. You say, this is my price. If you're not going to dictate to us, he's got a year left on his deal. We've given you a fair offer. Now, that might bring Chelsea to the table to say, do we risk losing him for free? Or United might be able to bring in another player. We'll have to wait and see. But I like it. Good move by United.
Al here, he's always been very firm on Mason Mount. Definitely not happy or doesn't want to see Mason Mount at United. Being very firm on that opinion. And down here, price is more than fair for a final year contract. What do you think, Rob, in regards to, obviously I think we all have the stance in Manchester United a right to sort of take it or leave it, not go over a certain limit, sort of not be bullied in the transfer market or not be taken advantage of in the transfer market, which we sort of have done before. But in regards to, there is that, and there's not be taken to the cleaners, but there's also backing your manager in regards to the man he wants. And look, only Erik ten Hag can tell you who his true first choice is. The evidence we have at this window is Mason Mount. Now, is that his 100% first choice, or is that his first choice with the sort of restrictions of a budget? I'm not sure. That's Erik ten Hag to decide. But where do you see it in regards to Manchester United's stance? If Mason Mount is the player, 5-10 million, okay, there's not be taken advantage of, but get it over and done with, or do you sort of stand by Man United, the very real threat of potentially walking away?
Yeah, look, as Larry said, I think it's good that we actually look like we're trying to bargain and stand our ground for a change so we don't get smashed with the United tax as we always do. But I do see this one, like as reported, Erik ten Hag wants him as a priority one midfielder signing. And at the moment, like, they said 80, we said 40 from the start. I think from day one, I've said that 55, 60 will get this done. And I think we've still seen reports saying that we don't want to go over the 60 million. We've offered 55. I can see us saying, okay, it's 55 with 5 million add-ons, or even if we do go to the 60, I don't think we'll go over that. But, I think there was yesterday, they said Chelsea want to meet face-to-face with us to try and negotiate. It could be a few million. Wouldn't surprise me if it's something like 57 million just to, get it over the line with, because as you also said on Friday, we can back away, but we also need players coming in. And if Ten Hag really wants him, he is. Say what you like about Mason Mount. Chelsea in general had a bad season last season, which a lot of people, are putting on. Mason Mount's not a good player anymore, but go back 2 years ago, I'll say Rashford again. We had a shocking season, and Rashford had a shocking season. Last season, best season of his life. So we've seen what Mason Mount done in the, especially that lead up with the Champions League final for Chelsea when they won it a few seasons ago. I think he's a decent player. And to think more than a couple of years ago, we paid 50 million for Fred. So when you put an English player coming in at a direct rival, and he is a very energetic and quite a versatile player. So for me, I'm more than happy for him to say, we said he could come in as a bit of an Eriksen replacement. He's young. He's got age on his side. For me, if Ten Hag wants him as he's one of his priority signings and a quick signing that we thought would have happened by now, go and get him. Spend the 60 million, but don't go anything after that. For me, the whole Caicedo thing is a bit of a scare tactic. I just can't see it happening.
We mentioned Caicedo there, Rob. I'll go to Larry in regards to Caicedo. He's the name who is seen as how do you want to define it, the threat or the alternative to Mason Mount. Where do you think this name has come from in terms of at the start of the window, Mason Mount to Manchester United? Yes, all the evidence points to that. Declan Rice to Arsenal, all the roads point to that. Now, obviously, Manchester City are a potentially new player in there, but all the roads at the start of the window led for Caicedo to end up at Chelsea. Now, all these there are moving parts, and who knows, it could be a case of Romelu Lukaku and Alvaro Morata all those years ago. But it does look like Caicedo has been maybe not his preferred destination. Obviously, he's a Manchester United fan, but all the rumours have been that he's going to replace him. Look, Chelsea do need midfielders as well. Obviously, lost Kovacic and N'Golo Kante as well. You'd think probably Caicedo is a perfect mix of both those players to replace them at Chelsea. Manchester United's name in the hat for Caicedo, is that genuine, or do you think that's Caicedo's camp, or where do you think? Because he's not, he can maybe take up the same position as Mason Mount, but he's a very different player to Mason Mount. So I'm just thinking it's not a straight swap. Okay, we'll go from option A to option B in that role. It's a completely different player. So I'm just thinking, is this just journalism? Just okay, we'll pick a player who can create a few headlines, or is there a tactical view from Erik ten Hag in regards to the personnel?
Great question. Well, Tom, with no disrespect intended here, I'm going to have a chat with Rob for a moment. So, Rob, shouldn't Caicedo be option number one instead of option number two? Because as far as I see it, between these two players, now granted, as Tom said, they are two different style of players, but Caicedo is perfect for what Manchester United need. He can get the ball off the back four. He's an upgrade on right back, by the way. He's better than both of our right backs if we really want to play him there. I know I say that tongue in cheek, but he could absolutely cover that position if needed, if for whatever reason, a defender gets sent off or so forth. So he's got versatility to his game. He's got a good range of passing. He's 21 years of age, so he's got age on his side. Who would you be going for if it was between these two players?
Look, I think the obvious one, you're exactly right. Caicedo, for me, a straight cover as well for someone like Casemiro, and like I said, 21-year-old, can embed himself. They're talking 70 million. 70 million player has got to come straight into the first 11. So he could be in a pivot with Casemiro for now and let a little bit more free range with, Bruno and our attackers. He's the one that, in the balance of the team, yes, he should be our number one priority. But number one, does Ten Hag want him? Nothing's been reported on that. We haven't seen any tier one reporters linking him to us. Again, it's just a scare tactic at the moment. But if we were to choose right now, we've wanted him for a few years. But again, for me, the thing that scares me is, does he want to come to us? It was only last season. Yes, we all know he's a Manchester United fan. He wanted to come. Last season, he was, a couple of days away from joining Arsenal. He was heartbroken, didn't get his Arsenal move. Now he wants to go to Chelsea, apparently. Well, he's linked to Chelsea. We also want to get that culture way of people coming for money. We want people to come to the club. And from face value at the moment, that's what Mason Mount's camp is saying. He's not want to sign anything. He wants to come to Manchester United. So sometimes when you look at that, I'm sure if I ask you the question, do you want a player that wants to come or do you want a player that wants to come for the money? I think the answer is quite easy.
I'll bring this point up, Larry, before we get it. Got one or two stats in regards to comparing Mason Mount and Moises Caicedo. Just this point here from Al in regards to Newcastle wanted McTominay when the price was too high. They went for Barella, ended up with Tonali. Why can't we move on like other clubs? How much do you think is in regards to sort of preying on our feeling towards this transfer window, simply because it's Manchester United in regards to the way sort of we're reported on? We're hearing absolutely every single detail of every single move. Other clubs can just go, oh, yep, you've signed this player. There's no real sort of, okay, you have 6 hours of news about it. They're linked to a player, then that news is sort of buried. It's yesterday's news. When there's a bit of news around Manchester United, you know the player's dog's name, you know what the dog eats for breakfast, you know everything about, he's street number, you know everything about this player. And sort of we get so immersed in the transfer story itself, and we read a little bit too much into these stories where we're kind of having the same, I'm sure behind the scenes it's very similar, whether it's Newcastle, whether it's AC Milan, whether it's Burnley, whether it's Manchester United. Behind the scenes, all these dealings will be extremely similar, but they look very different at Manchester United. And I think a lot of that is just down to be reported. Let's say Newcastle, Manchester United. Who does someone want to read a story about? Obviously, only Manchester United is the clickable story. So you don't hear about the behind-the-scenes action at a club like Newcastle, but the only Newcastle news you see is the end result, and the end result is very good. We're getting the all sort of dirty behind-the-scenes mess at Manchester United.
Yeah, it's a valid point. I think with United, and it's something that we discussed on Friday, that with Manchester United, I think we both have to, all of us should recall what happened last transfer window. When United went for Lisandro Martinez, it was pretty quiet around him, probably up until the week it was going to happen. All the links were with Arsenal. And then United swept in and got him pretty quickly. The two names that did come up constantly in last year's transfer window were Christian Eriksen, and there was a bit of back and forth on whether he'd stay at Brentford or come to United. And the other one was Antony, which we now infamously know United paid over for, despite the opposite effects being intended, which points to what we're discussing right now. But if you look at everyone else, Malacia came out of nowhere. Casemiro definitely came out of nowhere. We were linked with Arnautovic before the fans put that one to bed. Ahead of John Murta. So I think, and Rabiot as well, which I know it didn't happen, but United had absolutely done a chunk of groundwork there. If you look at all the signings we made last season outside of those two names that I mentioned, United clearly would be talking to people that we haven't heard their names of yet. So I think that's intentional by the club to kind of keep things under wraps, because United are the name on everyone's lips. It's clickbait, it's articles, it definitely sparks interest. So I've got to be honest, while I'm concerned, I have this feeling every transfer window. I imagine by the time the season comes around, I'll be confident in saying, now whether it's the level of player we want, that's another story, but I'll be confident in saying United will have a number 9 in, we will have a centre-half in, and we absolutely should have 1 or 2 midfielders in. I think that'll happen.
Well, I share your confidence in that will happen, whether they're of the adequate quality. That's the debate we'll have when those players do come in. But I'll bring up these stats here, Rob, in regards to comparing Mason Mount and Moises Caicedo. And everyone in the chat, get your opinions in here, if whether this changes your opinion, whether it sort of highlights any concerns, etc. But we'll have a little bit of a discussion about it. I'll bring it up here in regards to, this is last season, so 22-23. Obviously, the first one is obviously any Manchester United signer, we always look at an injury record. Now, Mason Mount did pick up a quite, I wouldn't say significant injury, but missed a chunk of the season through injury. You look at Moises Caicedo only misses 1 game there. Is that through injury or suspension? I'm not sure, or maybe he was just dropped. But Mason Mount didn't feature in all the games. So you go through those stats. Obviously, Mason Mount, not great in regards to the goal scoring, in regards to, now, again, you have to caveat all this with him being at Chelsea and Chelsea being extremely poor as well. But that's interesting in regards to Caicedo, pretty much almost just behind him in goals and assists. The chances created is interesting, because I think when you think of Caicedo, I think of someone in front of the back four. Now, obviously, he's played a lot more games to be able to create those chances for Brighton than compared to Mason Mount, but that's interesting. I don't think you would have sort of had that at the start if you're guessing. Before I brought the stats up, who had more created chances. The interceptions is clear. Obviously, a huge strength of Moises Caicedo's game, same as tackling. And the duels is in a different level. So, Larry, just in regards to that first glance of stats, my first one is the games. Just in regards to that Mason Mount injury. A player's going to get injured. Bruno Fernandes will get injured next year and miss 6 months of the season. Who knows? I'm not going to read too much into that. Maybe have a Chelsea fan on to sort of dissect Mason Mount's injury record. But anything sort of stand out glaringly, whether it be positive or negative in regards to either column there?
The statistics point out to the different styles of players that they are. I think that's the obvious thing here. But Caicedo, looking at these stats, is a more well-balanced midfielder. I think Mason Mount is clearly, and it maintains the concern that we have all had. If you just purely forget the numbers, let's say purely eye test. Mason Mount, you're kind of wondering how does he fit into United system at the moment? Do we see Casemiro being played a bit deeper, being a true pivot and being a central deep lying midfielder with the other two playing more advanced? I mean, with the type of player Mason Mount is, that's the way you would assume. But you look at this, you would surely Caicedo should be option number one. Like I said, I really can't make sense of it. Now,
what's option one though? Like in regards to, okay, you weighing up the player, okay, you say Caicedo over Mount, but the area of the pitch, forget the names of the players. 8 or let's say Caicedo is a 6, whether you play him or not, that's up for interpretation. Let's say Mount is an 8/10, Caicedo is a 6. What's the priority?
I think I'll let Rob come in. What do you think, Rob?
Oh, look, as I just said, the priority for me is Caicedo. I think, like I said, he's a bit of an all-rounder. He's a more balanced player. I think, at the moment we've got a few players that can muck around in that position. Bruno's there, Eriksen's there. We know Sancho can play in that 10 area too. We can, mix and match between the front four quite a bit. Caicedo is where, Casemiro last year, we can't say he was that injured, but he was out for 10 games for suspension. And not to say that he's not going to be the same next year, but it's just good to have that kind of color and versatility. We hope so. But yeah, for versatility, and look, when you're saying at the moment 70 million for an extra $15 million, it's crazy. Just, for the price, for everything that he offers, 15 million. Here's the one that you say, okay, go get that one kind of thing, and the stats are there to back it up. Even though if you're looking clearly at those stats, you can clearly see that's a team that's done extremely well and a team that's also done extremely poor in other directions. So, yeah, look, here's the one. But look, it just came out again. Fabrizio right now, he said 55 million still on the table. Mason Mount.
I'll bring that up now because Shane just alerted us that Fabrizio Romano has Twitter. We've got his Twitter account up here. So there was
but they're just
Can I say
55 million bid remains valid. Decision made together with Ten Hag. No chance to overpay. We'll see if that eventuates. I think Manchester United will overpay if they do want the play. United want Mason Mount as he's shown strong desire to join. United won't make anything an unrealistic bid. Mount side still believing he will leave. So Larry, on the latest there, a nothing update or something there?
Look, I got to be honest, it is a bit of a nothing update. And I like Fabrizio Romano, but I think he's been guilty of this a little bit for the last 12 months or so.
It's not an update. It's just making it look like, it's just what we're craving. United fans. It's a United update. We look at it. It's the exact same thing as what we know. Nothing different at all.
Yeah, not a throw shade at Romano. He's done really well to grow his profile. Like, credit where it's due. But the thing is, the difference between him and, say, someone like David Ornstein doesn't communicate anywhere near as much as Romano. But when Ornstein says something, pay attention.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I'm going off as well. He's tweeted out over the last few days that he doesn't think it's over. He thinks it's still going to happen. And that's where we're going with it at the moment.
What I will say on Mason Mount, the statistics comparison for last season, Mason Mount had a quieter season than usual, as did every Chelsea player. So I think that's worth highlighting. Prior to that, Mason Mount had been in double digits for goals in the 2 previous seasons. So that's worth saying. A midfielder who can score 10 or more goals in the Premier League is a good player, right? Mm-hmm. Number 2 is United are very left-centric. I think we really struggle to attack on the right-hand side. And even Anthony's added balance, Anthony himself, well, I'd say is a pass mark, wasn't brilliant. And I still think with Dalot and Wan-Bissaka that there's a little bit left to be desired from both players. I think both lack on the ball. Wan-Bissaka perhaps lacking a bit more than Dalot does. But still, neither of them seem to be the perfect option. So with all of that being said, I can see a case for Mason Mount to say, all right, if Casemiro is going to be your deep-lying midfielder, you play Mason Mount and Bruno a bit more advanced. In Bruno's case, maybe he actually comes back a little bit. But what you could do is you could almost split the football pitch into 2 sides, and maybe United's attack actually becomes much more balanced, and we ask more questions of the defense because you've got 2 very creative advanced midfielders who can link up with each respective player on their side of the field. And I think what we saw with Martial, Sancho, Rashford, even at the start in Melbourne when we were all there, is Ten Hag would like a fluid system where players can move and interlink and so forth. And I think what Mason Mount signing does over Caicedo is you probably have the ability to do that. So, just a little bit of credit on Mason Mount, because I think last season's statistics perhaps don't really paint the full picture of what the player is.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll throw this to both of you. I'll throw it to Rob first, but Larry, you pinch in as well in regards to his two potential incomings in regards to Caicedo and Mason Mount, but two potential outgoings. Now nothing's concrete, but in regards to two names sort of floated about in terms of could leave the club and could sort of bring in some sort of much needed cash into the transfer kitty is obviously McTominay and Fred. And I'm just sort of weigh up those people, the players, not just football and ability, Eric Ten Hag's view of those, but you have to take into consideration the contract, the age, the position in the squad, compare that to Mason Mount and Caicedo coming in. Dion just brings up here in regards to Newcastle's interest in McTominay must have been fleeting at best. He is one of those players along with Fred. Now, Fred potentially does look like there's been no sort of follow-up news in regards to Fulham's chase of him, but obviously there is something there. I'll throw it to Mason Mount first, to you, Rob. I'll throw Caicedo to Larry. Mason Mount, whose future is more in jeopardy at Man United, Fred or McTominay, if Mason Mount is to come in?
You'd have to say McTominay, wouldn't you? For me, Fred is, like I said, someone, if Caicedo came in, you'd say bang, Fred straight out the door kind of thing. Even though Scott is a bit more versatile and he can play as a 8, he can play as a 6, he can play as a centre back, worst case scenario. But yeah, look, off face value, if Mason Mount
can play up front over Weghorst if it worst comes to worst next season.
We don't own Weghorst. I don't want to hear that name anymore.
Hang on, Larry, not stop that. I want Larry to answer this one. Who is going to score more goals next season if fully fit at number 9? Not fully fit, like you have to take into account everything. Martial, Weghorst or McTominay. Who do you think at number 9 would score more goals next season?
I'm not entertaining this conversation. You're being ridiculous. You know you're being ridiculous. Behave yourself.
How many goals did Weghorst score last year in the Premier League?
2.
All right. Well, everyone knows Weghorst is shit. Is that a big secret that no one wants to talk about? Who doesn't know that?
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, I'd rather play McTominay over Weghorst.
If you didn't notice, Tom.
I'm playing McTominay over Weghorst up front.
No, you're not. Because
you agree with. I know you agree with me.
McTominay is a better goal scorer. I would agree with you there, but Weghorst is a better striker. I think he offers more in terms of his all-round game than what McTominay would as a central number 9. He wouldn't know.
He's not going to be there. He's not going to be there.
No, he's not going to be there. You're right. Can we stop talking about Weghorst? Because he was, honestly, I respect the passion he played with. He was dog shit, and I do not want to ever see a picture of him in a United shirt again, with all due respect. He has to be one of the worst United signings of the last 10 years. He was woeful.
We'll kind of not put him in the signing category because it was a loan.
You guys remember Odion Ighalo and the outrage that came with that signing? I actually thought Odion Ighalo, all in all, actually did all right for United. If you actually look at his minutes to goals, he did.
He was so close to winning that Puskás Award. I think it was our last game before lockdown. Away,
yeah.
Whoever it was against. If he hit that volley on the full, if it didn't bounce, that was the greatest goal you've ever seen. But Larry, Rob just said there, if in regards to Mason Mount coming in, that's Scott McTominay's future more in jeopardy. Let's say it's Caicedo to come in, Fred and McTominay, weighing up their situations. Who's that more impactful to?
Oh, who's a more impactful to? Well, I'm going to answer your question with a question. Who's more valuable to Eric Ten Hag? Now, to me, it's Fred. So for that reason, I'm going to say McTominay is more at jeopardy. Now, who's worth more in the transfer market? Again, it should be Fred, because Fred's actually more important to Eric Ten Hag. The players that demand a high value are the players that you don't actually want to get rid of. I think if you asked Eric Ten Hag, who would you choose to get rid of between the two, he would choose McTominay. Therefore, Fred should actually go for more. The fact that Fred has been quoted at 20 million for Fulham is actually a joke. I don't care if he's got a year left on his deal. The fact that he's important and United actually don't have a lot of quality depth in that area, not to say that Fred's a world's best footballer, but the fact that United do not have a lot of high quality depth and Fred has been crucial to United's squad, not the first 11, but squad, he shouldn't go for anything less than 30 million.
What demands a higher transfer fee that the selling clubs need for that player? So Fred's importance to Manchester United, or the buying club, their need for someone to come and fill that place?
Well, let me answer that with a question to you, Tom. If you've got a Mercedes that came out last year sitting in your driveway, and you've got a Toyota Corolla that came out 20 years ago, what's worth more in your driveway?
Well, I've never seen Fred compared to a Mercedes. I'm not sure what.
What car would Fred be? If Fred was a car, what would he be?
One of those tricycles.
What? He's not that bad.
You don't reckon?
No.
Just as a footballer.
I think. He's reliable, can do a job, but not flashy.
I think it's interesting. We need to sort of pull up receipts, and you're not wrong in any of these opinions, Larry. But the way and this is not I do the same. We're all sort of hypocrites with our views on football. But you're flip flopping between who's better out of McTominay and Fred. It's truly beautiful. Well, 1 week McTominay is more valuable.
McTominay's a better footballer, but what's factual is Eric Ten Hag values Fred more. I mean, that's fact, irrespective of what you or I think. It's very clear that Fred is valued more by Eric Ten Hag. And I think that's simply because Fred has got a smaller body so he can get around the pitch more. I don't think that's necessary. And also, McTominay, I got to be honest, has a pretty poor injury record if you look at the last 2 years.
I'd have to bring up the stats in regards to Fred McTominay because there's a huge chunk that is forgotten about at the start of the season, a very good run of form. Scott McTominay was playing well over Fred. And obviously McTominay did pick up that injury, so only Eric Ten Hag can answer that. But my personal opinion is McTominay's ahead of Fred, and that's weighed into a lot of considerations.
You can't say that based on the amount of football that both have played when available. Like, you just can't.
Yeah, but McTominay was off the back of whether he's coming back from an injury. And Fred, that was when Fred was in good form. So obviously you're going to keep Fred, sort of thing. And that's not to say McTominay was deserving of a spot back, but some of our best football this season came with McTominay in the team. A lot of people sort of don't.
Was
well,
it?
The best results. I wouldn't say the best football, but the best results.
I do. Our best football came with McTominay on the pitch.
Best results. I said our best results.
Okay.
Most important towards the start of the season, but. We'll just pull up the receipts next time you say Fred is better. I'll rewind.
I didn't say Fred is better. I said Ten Hag values him more. I think McTominay is better.
Okay. Well, we'll clip that in 10 minutes' time. But, Rob, what was I going to say? Before we went live, there was no news on David De Gea, but Fabrizio...
See on here. You can't sell Fred for 30. That's crazy.
Why is crazy.
Why is it crazy? Well, if Mason Mount can go for 60... who's 4 years younger than what Fred is, or Eden Hazard can go for... How much did Hazard... No, I know, obviously, different caliber of player. But Hazard was the same age Fred is. Hazard, obviously, a better player, went for 150 million. So why can't Fred go for 30?
Well, what's the club you're looking at for Fred?
In demand, but
he's Premier League. He's a Premier League.
Okay, so let's say Fulham. Let's say 30 million for Fulham.
A club not vying for you.
Let's say 30 million in Fulham. He has a wage as well. He's going to want 150 grand a week. That's why you have to lessen that transfer fee. This discussion we have.
You reckon Fred's on 150 grand a week?
No, you have to be something close to it. Yeah.
You have to be close to that. He's a 50 million pound signing.
He has good teeth too. A mouth like that doesn't come free.
50 million pound signing, but yeah, and look, that's a discussion which we've had on our podcast.
Fred for 50 million, boys. Let that sink in.
I know. I remember.
On Tuesday, our podcast will be out on your podcast app where we discuss selling players in regards to the issues Manchester United face. So make sure you do subscribe in your podcast app. Link is in the description below. But Rob, just before I sort of go to one or two other comments, there's, again, like a Fabrizio Romano, sort of nothing, not to discredit him, but there was a bit of a nothing update coming out in regard. I don't think he threw this out, but in regards to David De Gea. And a week ago, we're also, he's off to Saudi Arabia. And now it looks like in regards to maybe Eric Ten Hag not getting a priority over the line elsewhere on the pitch, it looks like David De Gea might be swinging back into maybe sort of staying at Manchester United for a further season. Your latest on the goalkeeping situation, because it does look, whether it's concrete, I'm not sure, but it does look like there's interest in Onana and other goalkeepers. So there is some type of movement at goalkeeper. But in regards to the Spaniard, your latest feelings?
Look, I love David De Gea. But I'm not going to lie. At the same time, I've been excited with the Onana links, just because it's something different. It's and it's obviously someone a player more of a Ten Hag caliber, someone who obviously likes to play out from the feet, and it's been well documented from not just him but from a lot of people that's what that's in the direction we want to go, and that's not David De Gea's strong point. But yeah, it's just for a change, I am excited. I was happy the whole time. If Ten Hag's happy with De Gea, fine, stay. He's going to have to lower his wages. But the thing that scares me, if he's going to re-sign a contract, that's not going to be a 1 year deal. It's going to be something big. It's going to have to be 3 or 4 years minimum. Surely you're not going to just sign him on for 1 year. I can't see that happening personally. But look, with Onana, oh my God, now I can't think.
I think you were going to say Ahmed Onana.
Yeah, look, I just think 50 million, if that's what it is, and that's what Ten Hag really wants. Obviously, he's got a relationship with the player as well, which we've seen who's been really good with. Sandro Martinez, obviously Anthony's had relationships with those players. Have come in, they've been good. I think go and get him, but just don't take all day to do it. If that's what he wants, do it. What is there? 3 days left of David De Gea's contract before it's officially a free agent. I don't know why we're waiting for it or why we're not being proactive. Like, if we're going to re-sign him, surely 3 days out we know what's going on. If not,
I think it's De Gea. I think it's De Gea playing hardball.
But what's he playing hardball with? If he wants his brother, he's going to go over and get more money, or he's going to sign a contract for 200.
I think he's pushing United for more.
Reportedly. And I don't think he deserves it. We can't say he deserves more than 200k at his age. And
it's difficult though, because like if you're Eric Ten Hag and you've been told, hey, the budget's 150 unless we sell players, right? The thing is, just playing devil's advocate here, Rob. Not to say I disagree with you, because I do agree with you, but the problem is, if De Gea leaves, the cost to replace him is substantially more, and that's where De Gea almost holds the cards to an extent. Like he definitely won't get anything close to what he's currently on. But if United are offering him 150 and he says, well, actually, I want 200 per week, United would, that still works out substantially cheaper than it would be to replace him. Because if you get Onana in, I think Onana would cost less salary-wise. But if you're spending 50 million of your 150 budget on a goalkeeper, United need a midfielder. You could probably make a case for, if we really want to challenge, we need two. And we absolutely need a striker. Like, United need a striker. So
United keep changing the goalposts. We were linked and we all thought that Kim Min-jae was coming in for 50 million. He's not happy now. That's $50 million we can go spend on another player. So there's a centre-back. We can't get a centre-back at the moment, or a priority centre-back that we thought we were going to get on a release clause. He's going to buy in. Okay, well, look at the situation with David De Gea. We'll spend that 50 million we're going to spend on a centre-back that might not have even started, on possibly a new goalkeeper that is going to start. So,
well, I think United will get a centre-back, though, because if you recall a few weeks ago, we were United have actually agreed terms with the Monaco player. I forget his name. He's a centre-half.
We've agreed terms with everyone. We monetize, we appreciate. These are the words that I can't stand at the moment.
No, but it happens. I think that's one United will go back for. But look, the priority has to be midfield and striker. I imagine anything else, being a centre back, a right back, etc. That all happens later. But no, I share your frustrations, mate. I do. I think it's a really good debate, though, and the points you make are definitely valid. But I think United need to keep De Gea this season, simply because the money that we're talking about being the transfer budget. Which again makes you wonder, why on earth do we sell Zidane Iqbal for 1 million or sell Eric Bailly for 3 million? It's pathetic.
So if he resigns, how long do you reckon he resigns for? Because it's not going to be a year. There's no way.
I think it'll be 2 years. I think it'll be a 2-year deal.
Is that 2 years too much?
No, I don't think so. I think you can kick De Gea down the road. Not literally, the De Gea issue down the road, rather. He's not a horrible goalkeeper. I think the issue is.
I'm not saying that.
I think United can still fight for the Premier League with David De Gea as goalkeeper. I think we naturally, yes, with the sweeper, you get to play further up the pitch, granted. But I think with Lisandro Martinez, you cover a lot of that up. If Martinez can stay fit, I don't think De Gea in the squad is a major issue. Most of De Gea's blunders actually came with Harry Maguire on the pitch. So I think that's really where the problem is. If you put Martinez in there, I think we'll be all right for a year or two.
It's a comment here from Al. We could replace Fred for free. You could sell Fred for 20 million, use that to buy Enzo. I have a feeling that Enzo guy, I think he's gone somewhere. I have a feeling, nothing officially announced, but it does look like he has moved somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I did see his name on one of the sort of the tweets that go sort of in the fake kit by Fabrizio sort of thing. And Tad here saying, good to see you, mate. I'm glad we walked away from Mount Nice to see it's not buckling to pressure from another club, which I do share that feeling. I am happy. It's just my hunch says we haven't actually walked away. I like the public stance. I do think we're right in the middle of those Mason Mount negotiations, and we'll go back in the next day or two. And in regards to, and a huge chunk of this, Larry, which goes into my next point I was going to throw to you, just looking at the calendar and that turn of the year in terms of contracts sort of finish on the 1st of July or the end of June. I'm just thinking so many of these just simply legalities in regards to not officially announcing something or not signing something until a certain date passes, just sort of to cover a club and individuals' tracks. So my fear, not fear, but I've seen it before. I've seen it with Juan Mata. I've seen it sort of with Christian Eriksen and Brentford. My fear with the David De Gea situation, this should be done on the 1st of July. a decision should be made. Now, we might have the new goalkeeper in, but if the new goalkeeper isn't going to be David De Gea, that decision should be communicated to the fans on July the 1st. Well, is that going to happen? I don't think it will. And because, in my opinion, it should, that's going to give me huge frustration. And I'm one of the fans in terms of I would like to see David De Gea stay. I've got no issue with letting him go and bringing in a new goalkeeper. I think there's bigger priorities. I think it is a case of one or the other. I think it's a big goalkeeper or a big striker. I would rather a big striker. I unfortunately do think it's one or the other. But in regards to David De Gea, do you see an answer this time next week when the clock ticks over or the calendar ticks over to July? Or do you think when it's going to get to the 1st of July, he's going to have no contract at Manchester United, but still be Manchester United's goalkeeper?
I think we probably would get an answer toward the end of next week. I think it will need a few days, but yeah, something will have to come out. He'll be reporting back for pre-season in 2 weeks, or will he, or won't he, right? So I think we're going to find out pretty quickly on the De Gea situation. But look, United have a lot of players to update us on. I still want to know whether Mason Greenwood's that's the one. Like, United got to tell us what's happening there. Like,
they won't.
They'll have to.
No, I know they have to, but they won't.
I
can see that dragging out. Like, yeah. What do you think happens there, Rob? In regards to so Larry's right. Of course, they do have to communicate that with us. Of course, they have sort of legally sort of kept him on that retained list. We saw the other day in regards to current contracted players. David De Gea wasn't on that retained list because it does look forward towards July. Mason Greenwood, obviously, I've seen the training photos. He's kicking about. He is contracted to Manchester United. I don't know. The latest on this internal investigation, just not so much your opinions on what should happen or shouldn't happen, but just what do you think is happening from Manchester United's point of view?
Yeah, look, as you said, I think they're just trying to keep it on the down low as possible.
He's going to be our new striker, isn't he?
Look, quality-wise, but it's just look. I have to say, with Tom, I can't see it happening. Like, I think today I read again a rumor. Apparently, his house is up for rent as they think he's going to be on loan in Italy or whatever at the moment. And look, it's a big decision to say. I think everyone wants to know what is United's internal investigation. We all know, obviously, what happened, publicly, but United is supposed to be doing this whole investigation themselves. What is the answer to the investigation? Come out, make a club statement. Like, he's still our player. Yes, we want to get rid of him. Yes, we're going to loan him out. Yes, we're going to sell him. Whatever's going to happen, we need to know, because he's obviously at the moment thinking, he wants to go back to football by the look of it. He's back on the pitch publicly. He's obviously got someone to, snap that and put it out to say he's keen to be on the football pitch again and start playing and training again. But where is that? Who knows where it's going to be at the moment.
I'll throw to you, Larry, in regards to, now I'm not putting words in your mouth because I know we share a similar opinion, but let's say you're of the opinion, okay, you'd sort of welcome Mason Greenwood back as a player. If he was another player, if he was playing at Chelsea or if he was playing at Real Madrid and he hadn't played for whatever, maybe not an injury, but a personal, Jadon Sancho, which had to go away from the game to deal with something. If Mason Greenwood was at Real Madrid or Barcelona and hadn't played for 18 months, would you sign him as Man United's new striker because he is a good player?
You wouldn't, simply because he hasn't played football for a good 18 months.
So does that put an end to the argument, even though he is good and we have no striker? He hasn't played for 18 months, so simply you wouldn't bring in a player who from another club who hasn't played for that long. Why would you bring in a player from Manchester United who hasn't done it?
The difference is United don't really – he is a United player currently, and he fulfills a position where we really lack. Now, I'm not saying that that's the way United are thinking, and I'm not saying that that's what United should do. But, look, in terms of quality, look, if you're telling me to choose, like, remove all the politics, right? If someone put Garnacho and Greenwood next to each other, there's one player winning in that debate, and it's Greenwood all day long. Much better footballer than Garnacho is. So, like, all the hype that goes around, like, just the point I'm trying to make is when we've talked about you, because I think as United fans, we always get very excited when we see youth players. Mason Greenwood's the best youth player in terms of potential that I've seen probably ever in terms of someone that's come through United's ranks. He's better than Rashford better than Rashford was when he entered into the first team. But obviously there are some things that are bigger than football. And for that reason, obviously, that's not really the number one priority. I'm with Rob. I think the most likely scenario is he goes on loan, because if he goes somewhere and kills it, once again, United have another 100 million signing. Or player worth 100 million that they could potentially sell.
Box at this point, and tongue in cheek, but I tend to agree with it, Rob. United have done no investigation. They couldn't organise the Tea Party, let alone investigate Greenwood. What do you think they have done? Do you think a decision has been made and they're just waiting for whatever the right time is to announce that decision? Do you think they're waiting for a club to come in and sort of take Greenwood off their hands? Or do you think they are, and this is the cynic in me, just pushing it down the road, just trying to get people to forget about it? It's a very different category in regards to injuries and his sort of serious offence, but almost the Phil Jones category where they're just going to just let him be. Just let him be.
It's hard to tell. Look, I'm sure they've had a couple phone calls or some kind of contact from not just him, but from his fiancée now. I think she is or whatever. But yeah, look, they're probably going to try to get as much. It's probably it's going to be the biggest PR stunt we're ever going to see, or it's going to be like I said, sweep it under the floor, send him to someone else, and once he's on loan at another club, it's kind of not their problem at the more, or not a United problem anymore. So look, again, we all want to wait and see. I don't know. It's a very hard one.
Let me ask you a question, Rob, because you support, you follow Italian football. So I want you to imagine Mason Greenwood signs for your Italian football club.
Yep.
How do you then feel about that? Like, in terms of the moral dilemma? Because obviously I think for United, I dare say if he didn't play for a club as big as United, I think they welcome him back in. I simply think this is because it's Manchester United. They're like, well, you know what, PR-wise, we're trying to sell the club. I don't think we can take this risk right now. But as someone who supports another league, supports a team in another league, Mason Greenwood playing in Italy, how do you think one, how do you feel about it? And two, how do you think that would actually be received in another country like Italy or Spain or so forth?
Look, first of all, honestly, I don't think the heat will be as hot in another country. Obviously, they're going to know, a player with these allegations are coming to a club. Number one, apparently there's Italian clubs that are interested in him. So that's the first thing. And it's not just small clubs. AC Milan and Juventus have already been linked to him from, even before he was even being pictured around again. Like for the last couple of months, apparently they've been linked and interested in him. A young English striker that, 2-footed, really talented. If he comes in and it's a very cheap loan and smashes 20 goals in the season, honestly, that sounds bad, but they're not going to care, mate. If he's doing his job on the pitch, after a few games, I don't think you'll get the heat. There's always going to be people that are always going to pick on him, and rightly so. And he's going to cop shit no matter where he goes. But if he starts doing the job on the pitch, very quickly, I honestly think at United, it sounds bad, but I think even if he done it at United, it'll be very quickly not forgotten. But I think 75,000 people, if he scores a goal on the opening day or he scores a hat trick, you think that they're going to sit down and do nothing? No, I think you're going to hear a lot of the heat.
Look, I tend to agree, Robert, and I see the line of thinking and that sort of scenarios that has played out in my mind. The reason I don't see that situation sort of eventuating is simply compared to other players who has done a similar thing and sort of been accused of such things. Sometimes there are accusations or some we hear, we've seen stuff. That's the difference. Well, we've seen physical evidence.
I 100% agree with you.
And I think that changes. This is a very different scenario to, say, Benjamin Mendy, who went to prison. Like, he could almost come back, and we didn't really see it. Was it true? Was it false? Who knows? We never know. We do know something here. Well, we all have the evidence of something. And I think that is where perception is going to be a little bit different. But Boxy is saying United should have been a facilitated mental plus physical help for Greenwood in the last 6 months, regular checking in with him, checking up on his progress. Well, they have been doing that. Yeah, they have. He's an employee of Manchester United. They have been doing that. But a huge part of what they do wouldn't be Manchester United's coaching staff doing the training. They pay Mason Greenwood probably 70 grand a week or something, 800 grand a week. He can go buy his own coaches. So it's not actually Manchester United training him, but they are obviously, he's the employee, obviously do checking up on him. You assume the whole time, even before the case, that would be the case. But send him to Napoli so he can link up with Osimhen. And I'm not going to pronounce the name, but I do know the player. Rob, you know the player's name?
Nah, I call him the Georgian, so I can't.
The Georgian, he does look a player. Every time I do see him play, he's got something about him, but no chance I'm going to pronounce his name. The next time we'll bring all three back to Old Trafford. Larry, betting man, as I said, our opinion will change every 2 days on this one. Are you still sort of confirmed or confident that Mason Greenwood's playing his football on loan?
Yeah, I think so. I think
it's an experiment they'll be willing to do. Okay, what's it? What kind of atmosphere is he going to cop? What even on how fit?
Not even willing to do, Rob. not even willing to do, Rob. I think almost have to do, because as you say, in terms of maybe perception, let's just throw Italy in. Let's not throw all Italians into this sort of category. But let's say he goes to AC Milan and scores 20 goals. Manchester United still think, oh, geez, we're still getting a bit of backlash. We still don't want to touch him. But someone in Italy will touch him for 50 million. But that's why I think it's so important to send him out on loan. If he does kill it, you can sell him for a huge fee.
The player himself, he's got to see how he copes mentally with it. Like, he could say, yeah, I'm going to go back to football. But if it's that bad and it goes in the wrong direction and he's got crowds, just booing him and hammering everything, like, you can only take so much of that as well. So it's a mental challenge for him if he does get back on football.
You know what I guarantee for both of you? Like, if I was a betting man, because I think this could go either way, I bet he does some sort of interview. No matter where he plays, I reckon he'll do something. He has to, Tom.
No, I know he has to,
but he'll do it with his missus. He'll do it with the missus, or the missus will do one by himself. 100%.
Yeah, Rob knows. Rob knows. Yep, exactly right, mate. He's going to have his missus by his side, holding his hand.
It's not Hollywood, though. Like, if this is Will Smith and Will Smith's wife, whatever her name is, sort of, if it's Hollywood, yes, this happens. Manchester United football, I'm
not saying I'm saying he might do this and not even play at United, but I think he needs to do it for his own PR.
Yeah.
But won't we see through it?
I'm telling you, like, you'd be amazed how much, like, you get your missus holding your hand, the person that the allegations are against, by the way.
That's why we see through it. Well, we can see what it is.
Pregnant. I don't know. Well, other people might
argue. This is
textbook
101.
So what's everyone else's right? Again, like, you know what I mean? Look, it's only because it's sport, like it's a different thing. Because, like, I'm very much of the, like, I think that the right to be a professional footballer is something that's afforded to such few people, and millions would die to have. Pardon me, millions would die to have it. So I'm like, if you screw up to that extent and you lose your career, so be it, because so many people want to be where you are. And if that happened to him, like, tough luck. But I do believe in rehabilitation and giving people second chances. So, if I were to give a counter argument, the counter argument would be, if his girlfriend can forgive him, then what's the right of people who are strangers who know nothing about him to not forgive him?
And that's where I think if United would just want to cut him loose, mate, I'm sure they'd find something legality. Golden handshake, we don't want you anymore. Here's this, go play over there. No, you know what I mean? If United really wanted to cut or part ways with him, I think they could do something, or like I said, there'll be something that they could say, we don't want you anymore. Sorry, you can go here, or we'll just cut loose. We'll pay you some money to go, or whatever. I just think there'll be something.
That's to a benefit of Mason Greenwood. I believe that's Manchester United as a club should be looking after our young players, regardless of what they've done. That is looking after Mason Greenwood. I think the future is best away from Old Trafford for Mason Greenwood. But interview with Piers Morgan, you could probably say that, to be fair. But before we wrap up, Rob, you've been referred to as the specialist here. Can you ask the Italian specialist about the financial fair play problems at Inter Milan, possible bargains, whether you want to say Inter Milan or Juventus, right? Just the latest sort of status of football in this area, Inter Milan as well. The latest in regards to names we should be looking out for.
Lots of them, because it's just the Serie A in general, man. They've come, as we've seen with Tonali, for instance. Again, it's going to be interesting. The AC Milan side, I've seen a lot of people I've been reading lately the last few days, is he didn't even want to come. He's being forced out from the club straight. They need money. Newcastle come in with 70, 80 million euros. They're going to sell one of the... He's AC Milan fan. He's gone. They bought him young. He wanted to be someone that wanted to captain the team one day, and he's won the Scudetto there and been years and years and years. And that's why I thought I was pretty shocked when obviously it looks like it's over the line at Newcastle now. But yeah, look, it's not just that. It's all over the league. And it's not just that. Clubs that aren't doing good, i.e. Juventus, who I follow, obviously you've had all the allegations, stripped the points, or whatever. They're still fighting that. They're actually with UEFA at the moment. They're in the Conference League, and they're actually trying to exit the Conference League themselves at the minute. And then there's big players in that team that want to play Champions League football, or they've signed players.
Like Paul Pogba.
Pogba hasn't even played. There's people like Chiesa, Aston Villa are interested for him. Liverpool interested, and they'll break my heart if that was to happen. But the Premier League is where the money is. And at the moment, sometimes a player says that 1 year out of Europe or out of the Champions League or top echelon of football is a massive. This is a year of the Euros. We've got to remember that everyone wants to play in top top elite football going into the Euro, so they can be in form or they can put themselves in the shop market themselves. But we've all seen in Italy among themselves, a player can go for 20, 30 million, or they can go on loan with an obligation to buy for 30 million the next season. It's very easy. As soon as England come in, it's quite easy because England will splash the cash if they really want it, and they'll take in from that 70 million, they'll go out and buy another 2 or 3 players in Italy kind of thing. So
just on Tonali, Rob, just on Tonali going to Newcastle, in terms of the Italian curse, in terms of not many players from Italy come over, whether from Italy or the Serie A, come and transition smoothly into the Premier League. Big money signing for Newcastle. Now, will he have the pressure of a £70 million signing going to Manchester United? No, he won't. It'll still be a little bit under the radar at Newcastle, which might sort of work to his benefits, but it's still a huge money signing, their marquee signing. You don't think they would sign anyone for more money this season. You think he's going to be the main man there. Look, talent-wise, obviously, great player, sort of a great prospect, but doing it for Newcastle, who there's now going to be standards. There's now going to be an expectation they sort of challenge. How do you expect his season going?
Well, look, he's not a goal scorer if that's what Newcastle fans are here, but I think he will unleash your Bruno Guimaraes, I think it is their Bruno, as I like to call him. Yes, he's very versatile. A lot of people like to say he's the next Pirlo. He's nothing like Pirlo. If anything, he's a lot more like Gattuso. He's got that little bulldog in him. He's very versatile. He's very energetic, box to box midfielder. He'll sit deep. He can go into the other opposition. He's very good on set pieces as well. Newcastle, for me at the moment, even with, I'm just going to say, and it's not being against Newcastle. If I was a player right now, I wouldn't want to go to Newcastle. I'll put it that way. I just think that for me, I can't see them as a consistent top 4 team. Yes, they've done amazing last season. They had no European football. They've got Champions League this year. I think it's still a year too early to judge how they're going to go and how they're going to juggle the whole, Champions League football and all 4 different competitions. I think
they might very well be on track in terms of a schedule. Might be very well on track and not make the top 4 next season. Because on track, I probably had them top half this season, maybe 9th, maybe 8th. So maybe they finish 6th in regards to the schedule. That's where they should be. But in regards to they finish 4th one year, they're going to have to take a step back.
Now, like Rob said, I think that's the challenge now. Like the fact that they'll be in the Champions League and the Premier League, because they'll have to bolster their squad, and that's a big challenge to Eddie Howe, who's never had to really juggle multiple competitions. So that'll be a challenge to him as a manager. I think there's a good chance they fall off. Not obviously forgetting that Liverpool, Chelsea performed well below par, and you expect big improvements from both of those teams as well. So it's going to be a very competitive top 4 to 7 sides next season. Absolutely,
it's going to be. It's hard. Like top 7, top 8. You can nearly say no for all those. For the Conference League position now. Tottenham, will they have like whatever Ange Postecoglou is going to do there? They look like they've already got 2, 3 signings coming in. Not well known. Is Harry Kane going to stay? Is he going to go? Again, I really think Chelsea will fight right back up there. Liverpool again. Towards the back end of last season, we've seen how hard they stand home with 1 or 2 good signings or players that aren't injured. They're going to be in the mix. I'm not confident in Sydney and saying that United are going to be top 4 next year because for me, we're not addressing our priority, which is a striker. And for me, everyone's losing their minds over this young kid at Atalanta, in the Serie A himself. And
Poland,
it doesn't excite me. I'm going to come out and say it. It doesn't excite me. If we were to go out and spend, if it was as low as 50 or high as 80, for me, I don't see us going to another level with a striker like him as well. It's a chance he could come out and surprise us and be the next generational kid. But so many people don't know how it is to come from the Serie A or to come just to not the Premier League, but to come to Manchester United and lead the line. If he comes into someone else like Martial go out, like I would feel more comfortable still with Martial as a hospital player playing in front of him because he's got experience and he can score goals when he's fit. To put this on a 20-year-old kid with a ceiling is mental. We're Manchester United. I'm happy to go spend the whole 150 million on Harry Kane. For me, he's a priority of what we need. Honestly, if our one sign-in for this transfer market was 120 on Harry Kane with one, I honestly would not be cranky because I think our signings last year were good enough. We've got decent depth. We haven't got amazing depth. But if Harry Kane was to come in, for the chances created from people like Bruno, and then if our wingers can chip in with a bit more creativity and crosses, he will take us to the next. He's the only player I can see that's available that will take us to the next level. Even if you're talking about Victor Osimhen, I wouldn't even be confident for him for 120 million. I'd still go Kane. I know that age isn't on his side, but even if it's for a short, people say he's 30 years old. This guy, like you said the other day, he's got at least 3 or 4 good seasons if he stays fit. I'll take the chance and try and go for that next level. For me, next year, I want to be in the challenge. I'm not saying we're going to win the. I want to be in the challenge. That means I don't want to be last day, 3rd or 4th. I would like to be 2nd, 3rd, or try and hang in there to the far. And in the Champions League quarterfinal at bare minimum. Anything less than that, what's the point of even being in the Champions League? Where's our pool? We need to earn our respect again so we can get proper players again.
What do you guys think about Vlahovic from Juventus? Like, just as an outside option, because I know he had a dip off, but I put him almost in the Mason Mount category. In form, I think he's a very good player.
And I was screaming out for him when Arsenal were linked. Obviously, again, as a Juve fan, when he was at Fiorentina, absolutely breakout season. He was therefore linked to Arsenal, which I thought was going to get over the line. I think it was 70 million. Juve went in, and he started on fire as well. First time in the Champions League, he performed. Again, Juventus had a bad season last year because of the whole allegations, points here and there. He was a bit quiet. If I'm going to be honest, again, Kane still, he's got a ceiling. He's a very good player, left-footed striker. He's young, he's versatile, he's quick. You got to come in, and it's very hard to come in from the Serie A to the Premier League and hit the ground running. That's why I like to say, not just players, not Italians, but players in general from the Serie A. It's a very hard thing. Even with Tonali, I said to Newcastle fans already, I'm like, just relax, see how it goes. It wouldn't surprise me if he's back on loan in the Italian team in January, because that's probably it hits or it doesn't hit, and it always happened. For me, Barella, if anyone can get Barella in the Premier League, he's a player I'm confident that would excel in the Premier League.
Someone put him up in the chat a little bit earlier. Was it? Is it? The inbox might have put it in there. But Larry, just to wrap up, we'll try and keep this under an hour. Time has flown today, which has been enjoyable. So I do appreciate everyone in the live chat. Make sure you do get any other questions or topics in before we do wrap up, Larry. But we've mentioned all these clubs: Newcastle, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, all these clubs that could even have a good season, but just technically just finish out of the top 4, just simply because of the numbers. The one club, unfortunately, who since they made the Champions League back in, must have been around 2009, 2010, I forget when it was, who haven't dropped out, is Manchester City. It's an unbelievable stat in regards to consistency. Treble winners, best team in the world. They're not going to drop out of the top 4. Now, technically they could. That's very unlikely going to happen. It does look like they're going to sign this Croatian defender as well, potentially. Now, I think Declan Rice maybe not happen. Maybe that's posturing by West Ham to maybe eke out a bid from Arsenal. I'm not sure.
Newcastle. Said on Friday, I'm sticking with it.
Who goes to Newcastle?
Arsenal, sorry. Declan Rice.
Arsenal. But it does look like City are going to get this Croatian defender over the line, who I've never seen too much of, but a lot of people do rave about.
I like him.
A lot of people do like him.
120 million for a left back / centre back / deep line.
I haven't. Was that the price?
The price is crazy.
Was that the price?
100 million pounds. 100 million to 120 euro.
I just saw the name. I thought it was like 40 or 50. I didn't realize it was that much money.
He's a player.
100 million, and apparently, like Pep wants him. Apparently, terms are agreed. It's just they got to get there. But 100 million for, like I said, even if it's a left back, a CDM, whatever. Like it's mental. But that's probably their Champions League winners, mate. You can go out and do that with that much money.
But on that, it goes to my final point, Larry, in regards to City, the best team in the world. They're adding quality. Okay, they're only going to go from strength to strength. They're not going to have as good a season as winning the treble. Now, yes, if they're going to go do the quadruple, fair play, they have. That's very likely not going to happen. So there is going to be somewhat of a drop-off from Manchester City. Now, that's not going to say they're going to go from 1st to 5th, but in regards to, just from what you've seen of this team in regards to the intensity Pep Guardiola demands of these players in terms of, and now you just have to look at the sheer fixture volume, is there a chance? A lot of this is hope. I'm fully aware of this. This is more hope than realism. But City do sort of, just motivationally speaking, don't sort of reach the heights of last season simply because they have reached the pinnacle. There's going to be a natural drop-off.
I mean, the optimist in me would want to agree with you, Tom. But what Pep's doing already, which really concerns me as a rival fan, he's getting rid of big players. Gundogan scores a double in FA Cup final, out the door to Barcelona. Bernardo Silva, who I would argue is up there as being probably their most important player, not their best player, their most important player in terms of everything he offers, his versatility, his engine, his work in midfield. Looks like he'll go out the door as well. He's getting rid of 2 major players. So if I'm another player in that dressing room, that tells me I'm not safe. and I can't rest on my laurels. So that's number one from Pep. Number two is you look at the players he's bringing in. I think they could be better, which is terrifying. But the fact that they're linked with Gardevol, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, suggests to me that they're going to look to bring John Stones back into the defense, maybe play a back three, because then they'll be well.
I have a feeling. I was discussing with a mate, and we discuss tactics a lot of the time. Very boring chats, but I do find them engaging. But it'd be boring for the random person on the street if anyone sort of was eavesdropping at work. I have a feeling the back three over the next couple of seasons will be the new way forward for football.
Well, a lot of teams play with that once they're in possession. Even United play with a back three in possession. So don't worry about this starting 11 thing when you see the formation come out on the team sheet. It means nothing.
Yeah.
So, United play that way anyway. Delo lines up in midfield at times. Same with Luke Shaw. It doesn't really mean much. I've seen Rashford score centrally many times this season. I thought he was a left winger. It's not FIFA, boys. People move in and out of possession. It's just the way it is. But yeah, the thing is, Tom, the fact that Pep is willing and financially backed, crucially, to get rid of big name players and bring big players in means that he can continuously keep that team motivated and honest. Even Ferguson.
We've seen this before with our team. We've seen this with Sir Alex. We've seen this with Manchester United.
This is another level, Rob. I mean,
it's the exact same thing.
You even like the treble winners. It was a phenomenal 11. It was a good bench. I wouldn't say it was a phenomenal squad. City got an unbelievable squad. Their squad players walk into United's 11. And that's the terrifying thing. I think this season, Phil Foden, I say, will probably get a starting spot. He was a fringe player, which is crazy to think about given he scored a hat-trick against United. Well, he scored a double, didn't he?
No, he
scored a hat-trick.
Phenomenal player, right? He played 5 minutes in the FA Cup final. Like that's the terrifying thing about their depth. So you can easily drop Jack Grealish for being a drunk bellend, and you can start Phil Foden next season. And you still got a quality player in Jack Grealish who costs £100 million sitting on your bench. Like they're just so depth-rich that I dare say, who's to say they can't be the first side to do a quadruple? They definitely could.
Well, two things to wrap up. Dion brings them up both nice. Box one, first one here. This will kill Pep. Nathan Jones, Southampton, is the one who stopped the quadruple. Obviously, knocked them out of the League Cup. Then Manchester United and Eric Ten Hag winning that League Cup. Thank God we stopped them doing that. But also, Dion, with the correct way you say all those things, Rob and Larry, and you're completely correct. But also, Dion's correct here. They've all done it by cheating. What's that, Brian?
Until they get done.
And all your pots and pans back.
Until they're done, mate, or thing, it's going to go away, mate. Until it's done, we all say it's going to be mate. There's no proof on either side, and I guess it could be 10 years, it could be 5 years, but if they had 115 things as it came out that time, and they're taking their sweet ass time to get this under investigation or whatever they're doing.
Once OpenAI and Sam Altman achieve AGI, I'd be getting that artificial intelligence because they say it's going to be smarter than all humans. Get this technology to figure out how Manchester City have been cheating. It'll figure it out. It'll be worth our wait.
At the end of the day,
in front of us, we can all see how they've done it. We know how they've done it. They've just got very smart lawyers in terms of outsmarting the UEFA and FIFA lawyers. It's very clearly what they've done.
And this is the thing, like as a person with a Middle Eastern heritage, there's a reason people like to be friends with other Middle Eastern people. When there is a law, the Middle Eastern man says, I bet I can find a way around that. And that's the point.
And look, we're not going to get into an ownership discussion now because I'm sure we'll be having many of those in the days, weeks, and who knows, Manchester United fans, probably months and years down the track. Who knows when the Glazers are going to sell? But that is a discussion for us to have because it is the way forward, unfortunately, in terms of whatever side of the fence you do sort of lean on. But it is everything that we haven't liked. It's everything we've hated about modern football, about Chelsea, about Manchester City, about PSG. For us to get where we want to be, we have to become that, unfortunately, maybe. But all being quiet on the ownership front, no real news, which might be a good thing. I'm not sure. Maybe that means there is news around the corner, but I wouldn't be holding my breath. But Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure. As I said, I called Rob on. Didn't think it was Larry was around, but quick substitute off the appearance off the bench, straight from the start, which was good, Larry. Any other sort of parting words or topics we haven't touched on, Rob?
No, look, I think it wrapped up, and it was good. I like it. Obviously, I like coming off the bench, but it was nice to have three minds and three different opinions to argue.
We should do this more often. I like the trifecta.
That's good. It's good, man. Like I said, everyone has different opinions. It helps flow. But look, mate, it's football. It's Man United. I'm always down to talk about it.
No, always, mate. Always good to have you on. And there is a link in the description to Rob's. It's a football thing. So if you aren't subscribed, go into the description, have a click on that, and make sure you subscribe.
I've
And
never
Larry
been
and
invited on, by the way.
And Larry
I'll have
and
to get you on,
I
Larry. We'll
recorded.
have to get you
We
on.
met up at the pub. Obviously, you did see our Friday night pint at the pub. We also recorded an audio-only podcast that will be going up on Tuesday morning Sydney time, Monday night in the UK, and it focused on sort of around that selling issue. Why can't we sell players, and sort of the issues around that, one, the players, and also the club, and sort of the
And we
ramifications
also
that
learned
has.
the famous saying, didn't we, Tom?
There was a good. Well, I still don't know what the
Out
saying
of
is.
the
You did.
saucepan and into the fire, mate. Come on.
Yeah,
Try and catch
there
on.
it is. Yeah, tune in. It comes towards the end of the podcast. I don't know what brought that topic
I don't
up.
know.
What was it?
Alcohol. You were
No,
drunk.
no, something to do
Oh, wait,
with
that's
it
the
like
drunk
that.
guy who interrupted us. Is that on there, or did you edit that out?
I haven't edited it yet, but I will. Yeah, there was a visitor who thought we were talking about rugby league. Who was the Real Madrid player who came up in that discussion? It was a weird one. Chouameni.
Mate, he had a slurred speech as good as Jack Grealish. I have no
Well, he had
idea
too
what
many
to say.
drinks, and that's how Chouameni came into the discussion. It was a good one. So make sure you do subscribe in your
No, he
podcast
said
app.
he said I like too many players, and then you said too many.
I thought it was clever. I thought that was quick by me.
Genius.
But you be the judge. You subscribe in your podcast app in the description below, and enjoy that. And we'll be back, I'm sure, when there's breaking news, probably in 20 minutes. Who knows? But Larry, Rob,
No,
always a
no.
pleasure. Everyone in the live
Thank you,
chat,
mate.
enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll chat to you when we chat to you. Cheers.
Ciao.